Shivaya, Shivaya Namaha. Om Namah Shivaya, Shivaya Namaha.
How do you know if we start talking about old village temples and how we worshipped and how we went and what kind of food we ate and all that? You think the culture of a people is confined to the temples that they build or the universities or the cement and stone blocks, buildings that they build? Culture is the people, how they practice it. So I thought we should start something based on the temple, how the temple is running, so that the young people, whether they are from Sri Lanka or India or Singapore or Holland or Denmark, doesn't matter. They should have an exposure to this thing and understand why. And what is the symbol of a Saivite? The vibhuti, isn't it? So I called it VSI, Vibhuti Saivite Immersion. And it was started to teach kids like you the culture, the ups and downs of how it is and what the worship is like, how they dress, how they ate.
Purne sada purne shankara prana vallabhe jnana vairagya sevyadam nishan devi cha parvati.
How they sang. And vibhuti also means the grace that comes from a deity.
Shri Matre Namaha. Namaskaram everyone, and welcome back to our Sacred Rites and Rituals of Sanātana Dharma Learning Series, which is a joint presentation by the Sri Vidya Temple of Rochester, New York, USA, and Ashtanga Yoga Mandir of Sri Lanka. A few housekeeping reminders. We kindly ask everyone to keep all microphones and cameras turned off throughout the session. Please use the question form to share any questions that you have pertaining to the content discussed today. For those viewing our live stream, our question form can also be found on our webpage, which is srividya.org/aym-lectures. In the last few sessions, we had the privilege of learning from Ayya about different ways in which puja can be performed and important things to consider when performing and preparing for puja. We also explored more about different upachara pujas, such as Panchupachara puja and षोडशopachara puja. The षोडशopachara puja that we had the opportunity of learning about last week, which is the Raudarikarana puja, is one that is unique to our temple and won't be seen at any other temples. Given these sacred teachings, it's important that we begin as a collective whole to preserve and share these rich practices and teachings to all regardless of age, caste, and gender. At this moment, we'll hand it over to Ayya to begin today's session.
Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Sri Dakshinamurti Samarantam Shankaracharya-madhyamam Asvatacharya-paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. My humble pranams to my esteemed Guruji. May he sit on the heart lotus in me and speak through me. We started looking at Sivalingams. In the Saiva Siddhantam, the Sivalingam is the most sacred object. There are, depending on what sampradayam you subscribe to, there are so many ways of worshipping Shiva. The Sivalingam that you are very familiar with, the teachings vary from non-Brahminical to Brahminical matams, non-Brahminical to Brahminical matams, organizations that have been in existence for hundreds of years. In Tamil Nadu, there are 18 matams that are non-Brahminical. That means the head of the matam is not a Brahmin, but they are, all of them follow Saiva Siddhanta. There are matams like Dharma Adinam, Tiruppanandal Matam, Tiruvarurai Adinam, Madurai Adinam, Kaubai Adinam. Like this, back home in Nallur, there is an Adinam. And they are invariably headed by a sannyasi who can be a Naivishtika brahmachari, or he could have gone through the stages of the various stages that are prescribed. After going through Balyam, Brahmacharyam, Grihastham, Vanaprastham, Sannyasam. There are 6 such matams. The other matams, 12 of them, are headed by Naivishtika brahmacharis. Now the Sivalingam, one of the meanings of Sivalingam is one who showers auspiciousness on the devotees. Mangalam. Sivalingams, the whole subject is an ocean. They can be divided broadly into 2 categories. One is occurring in nature, and the second one made by man. Now, when it occurs in nature, more often than not, you will find them in rivers. The river Narmada that flows in India through Madhya Pradesh, it's one of a kind. There are the river bed, entire bed of this river is considered to be the body of Shiva. This is the river Narmada. And most of the lingams that we know that are of oval shape and of different hues, except the Spadikam, are from the river Narmada. They are also called Narmadeshwara Lingams. Now, the lingam is oval in shape. When the Sivalingam is taken from the river, if we can have the slide showing a Narmada river lingam, please. The Narmada Lingam is oval shape, like I told you, and this oval shape lengthwise it is taken and 1/3 of it must be set inside the Avudayar or Yonipitam. And it is surrounded by what is called Ashtabandhanam. 8 of these very carefully chosen products that will not perish easily. This is a very ancient paste-like consistency, and 8 different materials will be used to prepare this. Komparakku, arakku means wax, but it's a type of wax. Second one is kavi, ochre, chunnambu. This is, you can call it lime powder. Lingam, that's another material that is available that can be mixed in so that it could contribute to the consistency. Now, kavi, ochre, we talked about that. Then kungiliyam. Sometimes it is called elemi. It's an exudation from a tree, from a plant, and it appears as dried crystals on it. On the underside of the leaf, it's collected and added into this mixture. There's another one, Komparakku, ten malagu, ten maligu. Maligu is beeswax. And the beeswax also is carefully chosen so that there are no entrapped remains of bees in there. All these are taken and pounded together. Manikvasar sang Tiruvambavai, Tirupochunnam, when this was being pounded by the women in the temple. So there's a particular rhythm to it. They will be pounding the thing and ghee is added. That ghee has to be buffalo ghee. You cannot use cow's ghee for that. Now, once this powdery mix is ready, the lingam is placed carefully inside the Yonipitam. And the Yonipitam may be, if we can have that slide of the Yonipitam, shapes of the Yonipitam, it can be square, it can be circular, it can be triangular, it can be hexagonal, or it can have a shape of a pentagon or octagonal. These shapes are there. Triangular, circular, you see the list going down. And finally, it can also be an ellipse. Now, the stone chosen for this Shakti Pitam, the Yoni Pitam, must be female if it is granite. It contains, go back to the Kriyalinga Lakshanam, please. The Kriyalingam, you will see, is made from, see the Lingam, male stone, 80% silicon dioxide. And the Yonipitam is female stone, 60% silicon dioxide, 25 to 30% FeO4, that is iron oxide. And if you knock on the stone, how did they find out whether it was male or female? If it was a male stone, it will resonate in the first 3 notes of the Indian scale of music. Sa, Ri, Ga, Sajjamam, Rishabam, Gandhara. Okay, and the female stone will be Panchamam, Dhanishta, and Nishadam. So these things So in the middle is Madhyamam. If it is Madhyamam, it will have equal amount of silicon dioxide and iron oxide, making it Pancha, like an Ardhanarishwara. So Murti, like an Ardhanarishwara, will be made from this neutral stone. So the Yonipitam is made from a female stone. And once they have placed the lingam, now this is a Kriya Lingam made by a human being, the place where the lingam touches the Abudayar or Yonipitam, around the lingam, the paste will go, the Ashtabandhanam will go. And this is the red line that you see underneath all the murtis in the temple. Now, a yantra sthapanam should have been placed here for this lingam. And this lingam, when the yantra sthapanam is to be placed, it's got to be Shiva Panchakshara Yantram. Now, in the Panchakshara Yantram, you can play around with the syllables, and many siddhas have played around with it and had siddhis with it. There are exactly like the Subramanya Yantram, there is what is called Samudaya Maral. You play around with the syllables of the mantra in various forms, and that is considered to give you Phala Purushartham. That means all kinds of blessings you will get. Now, whatever that you might put underneath it, a straight Panchakshara Yantram, because Nama Shivaya, 5 syllables are there. 5 times 100,000 japam has to be performed before the yantra sthapana. That's the idea. The way I see it, I don't see in many places that the yantra has been properly worshipped. They might do maybe about 1 lakh and then put it in. But it is desirable that you do at least 500,000, and you do 50,000 of that. 50,000 has to be tarpanam, 50,000 has to be homam, and 50,000 has to be annadana. These things, once you complete it, it's called completion of the prasaranam. Now the Sivalingam, 1/3 of it, if it is an oval Sivalingam, that means a Narvada Lingam, 1/3 of it must go inside the Yoni Pitam. Can we go to the Banalingam slide, please? The Banalingam is one that came out of the water in the river Narmada. Now, you see what is labeled here as Devata Raudri Ratna Netra. Rakta Netra Lingam. There's a spelling mistake there. It could be Rakta Netra Lingam. Now, this material, although it looks like granite, it is not. Both of them, the Rakta Netra Lingam and the one that is the Devata Raudri Lingam, both of them are products of the Narmada river. Rakta, red, Netra, eye, Lingam. So in that Sivalingam, you see a red color eye. Now, this was the Sivalingam that was in our temple. Because of the Tare, the dripping of the water constantly, it developed a crack. And Sri Amma, when she visited this temple, she had noticed it but did not say anything. The following year, I happened to be in Delhi. I was invited to speak at the Kamakshi temple, and I had gone there, And after the night of speeches and all that, the next day, Amma quietly called me aside and told me, the lingam in your temple is cracked. You must replace it. I will send somebody with you to a particular place. You go and look at it. I went there. I was not prepared for what I saw. There were over 3,000 Sivalingams in that store. And we selected a Sivalingam from there. The blue color, Lapis Lazuli Lingam, that you see in the temple, originally surfaced in Amarkantak in Madhya Pradesh. And it has been polished. So that's the lingam. That is, mind you, if lapis lazuli is considered to be a semi-precious stone, it will be a Ratnadi lingam made of Ratnam gemstone. Now, if you look at this total internal reflection of mantras in a perfect Bana lingam, you see the red arrows hitting the lingam from all sides. When it does, the sound travels through the Sivalingam, and in the internal surface, it will reflect and re-reflect and slowly die in the lingam. Now, after it is properly installed, 5 years, if somebody is performing Shiva Puja or Archana using whatever mantras, Rudram, Namakam, what do you call that, Shiva Panchakshara Stotram, any of those things. When they chant, after 5 years, it will start to emit that energy outward. Then the Sivalingam is said to be active. And it will last for a long, long, long time. A good example. Ravana established 1,000 Sivalingams from Tirukonamalai, Trincomalee in Sri Lanka, all the way up to Kadirgamam. And these 1,000 lingams are scattered in the dry zone jungle. When I was an architecture student, I had opportunity to visit many places for archaeological drawing, record keeping purposes. And at that time, none of this animosity was there. I asked some Buddhist priests whether there were any Sivalingams around in the jungle areas where they were. And some of them did tell me that there is, I counted 18 lingams in the dry zone jungle. That means established by Ravana, and the vibration is still there. You can imagine. And invariably, more than 50% of them were Kriyalingams, established, made by human beings. Now you see the diagram, the dotted lines indicate the pathway of the mantras inside the Sivalingam and how they die. Now, very important, if you get a Bana Lingam, you must know how to test it, whether it is proper for worship or not. You may not be able to see anything because it is not translucent, or even it is not transparent or even translucent. So how will you find out? You take a mallet, put your ear to the side of the lingam and tap the lingam in a circular fashion with the rubber side of the mallet. And if you do it in a quiet place, you will hear that the sound is broken at one point, or the sound is dull at one point. Then you know that there is an occlusion or inclusion or a crack or a fissure inside the lingam or an air bubble. Such a lingam is not to be worshipped. Because you see in the second diagram, you see the mantras hitting the surface of the lingam and going in and are diverted at various angles. So there will be chaos inside that. Now, the two Parasurama Lingam and the Ishanya Lingam that we see in the Rajarajeswari Peetham, I tested them like that before we installed the Sivalingam. Now, this Lingam, every Bana Lingam will have a marking. Now you see that red color marking on the right side Lingam, Rakta Netra Lingam. Raktam is blood. The Devada Rautri Lingam, what you see there is a yogi's jata. So, the legend, the stories, the scriptural sources for this is, there is something called Yajnavalkya Samhita. Yajnavalkya was a rishi's son, was a great upasaka. Credited to him is the Yajnavalkya Samhita. In that, there are details given about the Narmada Lingams, Narmadeshwaras. And this particular Lingam, they, according to this Yajnavalkya Samhita, Siva Mahapurana, then Kalottara. These are texts that give you details about the Lingam. They say that any Devata or Rishi or Asura or human being that has worshipped the Narmada Lingam, after the worship, it is consigned to the river. Now, this is part of the legend. But what actually happens is there are Narmada river starts somewhere in Gujarat and flows down. And in some places it is really ferocious. Example, the area where Triambakeshwar is located, Narmada is fairly fierce. And if you remember, I told you, the base, the bedrock of this particular river Narmada is unlike anything anywhere in the world. It's a unique river. And in the crevices and in the pockets that are there, stones that will be dislodged will be there and will be agitated by the river like a cement mixer is going round. It will keep agitating. And after hundreds of thousands of years, this is the shape that you get. But the stories about the Lingam that go in, every one of them, a Devata or a Rishi or a Avatar or a Asura, will stamp the Lingam. They will stamp the Lingam with their mudra and it is put in. Now this one must have been done by some Rishi who has placed, he has shown the jata and thrown it into the thing. There will be many shapes. In the temple, we used to have quite a big banner. There were over 300 shapes in that thing. Somewhere it has got misplaced. We must find it and make a shade out of it. Now there are other lingams, other rivers from which lingams have come. The only other place that I know of where the lingam has been made in the river and taken out are the Jyotirlingams that you see there. The Jyotirlingam that you see there, when you place a source of light behind it, the light diffuses through and it is very beautiful to look at. It glows. And the Spatika Lingam that you see here came from the Ganga. And the Jyotirlingam came from the Ganga. And we have another one called the Bhairava Lingam, which is pitch black in color, that also came from the Ganga. Now, this Jyotirlingam. Now this, the Lapis Lazuli Lingam that we have in the temple, you see there. And when I came back from the store, because I had got permission for him from the storekeeper, that I wanted Sri Amma to take a look at it. When I came home, she was in this sari, which you can see is the same color as the lingam. She had seen it and picked it out the previous day, but she wanted me to go and choose it. So she had this one. And this Sivalingam that you see here on the right side, the cover of the Sri Chakra, those markings, about 2 or 3 years ago, NASA published a composite picture made by a computer of the present state and the present shape of the universe. And this, the markings on this and the markings of the photograph that they released were identical. So it really is the source of the cosmos. Now, can we go to the types of lingams, Amma? The Sivalingams, sometimes, once they are made, they can be fixed to a place. Then they are called Acala Lingam. If they are in one place, Chala, Acala may not be moved once installed. So the Sivalingam that is found in most temples where it is permanently installed is an Acala Lingam. Chala Lingam, for example, are the Sivalingams that the Lingayats carry when they carry it around their neck. That is a Chala Lingam. Some of the lingams can be carried from place to place, and it can also be an Acala Lingam. Once it is installed, then it becomes Acala Lingam. So they are called Chala Acala Lingams. Now, if you show Tiruvannamalai, the mountain of Tiruvannamalai itself is a Sivalingam. So this is Aruna Acala Lingam. Aruna Acala Lingam. Can we go to the other shapes, please? The Sivalingams, right? Some of them, now these lingams invariably are made by human beings. Mukha lingams, that means the Sivalingam has a face. Eka Mukha Lingam, one face lingam. And that lingam, the face will be looking at you when you do namaskaram to it. There you go. This is Eka Mukha Lingam. I do not know what temple it is, but the sculptor has done a really beautiful job on this. It's very nice. Then Chaturmukha Lingam. There are Sivalingams with 4 faces on each side. Such a lingam can be seen in Chennai. There's a small Sivalingam near one of the suburbs. It is there in that. It's quite recent. Now, Panchamukha Lingam is also there. The Panchamukha Lingam, it has faces on 5 planes, the 4 planes, and on the top, there's a 5th face that is there. Now, this Panchamukha Lingam, now you see, if you see the image on the right hand side, you will see the Avudayar and the Sivalingam are made of one stone. So this is a one piece. There is no separate piece for the Sivalingam. And therefore, what kind of stone they would have, think about it, what kind of stone would have been used for this lingam? Neutral stone, where the Madhyamam is predominant. Now, if you go to Pasupatinath's temple in Kathmandu, that has 4 faces. The 5th face that is on top, that is Sri Chakram. Therefore, it is unbelievably powerful. In the Pasupatinath temple, the temple building itself is an architectural gem. Very beautiful. Now, at the base of the lingam, if you want to make it Acala Lingam, all you need to do is put the Ashtabandhanam around it, and it won't move. It won't move. Next slide, please. Now, Ashtabandhanam, the slide shows you the red line that goes around it. That is Ashtabandhanam. Let's go to the next types of lingams. Now, tiny Sivalingams are carved. 1008 Sivalingams are carved on the main lingam. The puja bhagam, if you remember, what is jutting out of the Yonipitam is called the puja bhagam or the Rudra bhagam. In that Rudra bhagam, they would have made tiny lingams totaling 1008. This is called Sahasralingam. Now, it's very interesting here. Imagine the Puja Bhagam or the Rudra Bhagam is 1/3. The Vishnu Bhagam is 1/3, going straight down. And 1/3 is square Brahma Bhagam. So this lingam must be massive. And I think most of it is inside the earth. And I think they have, whether it had a Avade or a Yoni Pitam or not, nobody knows. It's so old. Such a Pitam is there in my Parameshri Guru's ashramam in Haridwar, which is now under the control of Ganapati Satchidananda Swamiji. But it was there when Kalyanananda Tirtha was there. He had, on the banks of the Ganges, he had made a Sahasralingam and installed it. If I stand up, the lingam comes up to my chest. It's that big. I had the opportunity to collect water from the Ganga and do Abhishekam to it when we went through. Anyway, this is Sahasralingam. Then there will be one with 108 Sivalingams there. The 108 Sivalingams are also like the Sahasralingam, but they are Ashtottara Lingams. Can we go to the slide with the gemstone lingams? Now, see, these are just a sampling of what is made like this, so that you can understand. See, precious stone, Ratna Raja Lingam. Daruja Lingam is made out of wood. And that also has been worshipped, and it is still being worshipped. Sailaja Lingam, stone. Now you will see, I think the example that they have chosen here, there is a separate, there is no separate avdaya, so it has been carved out of one lingam. Similarly, the precious stone one also has been carved out of one lingam. There is another one, Lokadi Lingam, made out of metals. It can be pure gold or mixture of 5 metals. Mrinmaya Lingam or Mattika Lingam. It's the Mrinmaya Lingam that is made out of clay. And in Tamil Nadu, if you remember, Kanchipuram, the Ekambareshwara temple, Devi herself made the Sivalingam from river sand collected from the Pampa river. And Swami playfully caused it to flood. She was afraid that the lingam will get washed away, so she hugged it. You can see the marks even to this day where she hugged the lingam. And those lingam, for that particular lingam, if they do abhishekam, it will melt, it will dissolve. Only punuhu. Punuhu is a perfumed material that is taken from a particular kind of cat. Today, the cat survives only in Indonesia. All the ones that were in India are gone. And once they trap this cat and put it in a cage, over a period of time, it will be from the outer edge of its thigh. There are glands there, this substance exudes. And it is paste-like but very perfumed, highly perfumed. They collect that. Punuhu, it is called. I do not know the English equivalent of this. Now, that material is the one that is applied on the Sivalingam in Ekambareshwara temple. Now, let me talk to you a little bit about this Rajanadi Lingam. Invariably, they are also made of one piece because there's no material that is enough for this. Sometimes the Spatika Lingam, that is made by hand, human beings, that also is one unit. For the people who are familiar with the Sivalingam in our temple, the Sivalingam, the Pradosha Lingam that comes out only during Pradosham and Shivaratri, that is one such Spatika Lingam. Now, when Shankara returned back to his area after Digvijayam, Shiva is supposed to have entrusted him with 5 Sivalingams. And that five Sivalingams are there in various places. One such lingam is in Chidambaram. It's a little bit bigger than our Pradosha Lingam. And it is kept covered. Once a day, the Nataraja for the day, one of the Dikshitas is chosen as a Nataraja. He will do puja and Annabhishekam to that lingam during the midday puja. The person who is doing the puja, that designated Nataraja for the day, may be a 20-year-old. But his people who are helping him sometimes will be 75, 80 years old. But they will show a lot of reverence to him because that is the tradition in that temple. In the middle of the day, he will do Abhishekam to it, Annabhishekam to it, and do Archana and Puja. Very beautiful to look at. Now, this Rajanadi Lingam, we have in the temple a green material, stone, which also shows there are speckles in it in the green area. It is Maragadam. In the green area, you will see speckles. And the speckles represent the stars that are there. So the entire body of Devi and Shiva are with these speckles. And this is also Rajanadi Lingam. Now, there is also a brown lingam with the same speckles. The stone is called gold stone, and the Sivalingam is made out of that. Now, many people like to have a Sivalingam at home, and if they have a Sivalingam, it's not a toy. You have to do the minimum ritual for that Sivalingam every day, and it has to be, you have to make sure that this Sivalingam is worshipped every day. At least one time, you pour a udrini full of water on top of the Sivalingam and say Om Namah Shivaya, that is enough. And before you eat, remember him. Now, there is a pearl color lingam in Sri Lanka. The Sri Lankan listeners who are listening to me, the next time you have opportunity to go to Kadirgama, after your worship is done, find out where Lingeswara Madam is. Lingeswara Madam. It's a small place. Several thousand years ago, a sannyasi came from Kashmir. He belonged to the Giri order. Kalyana Giri Swami. He is supposed to have come to Sri Lanka at the behest of Devayana, who told him he went down south, he has not returned. Please look for him, and he is in Kadirgama. Ask him to come back with you. So he came here. He came to Kadirgama. Every day he would bathe in the Manika Ganga. And a 6-year-old boy and a 4-year-old girl from the local family of hunters, bird. They came there, and on their own they would fetch water for him, they would collect wildflowers for him from the jungle, and they made sure that his pujas were not disturbed by anybody. And he had taken a vow, a vratam. The vratam was that he would not sleep. So for 12 years, he chanted Om Srim Hrim Klim Aim Sound Saravana Bhavaya Namaha. This mantra. Sadaksharam it is called. And he chanted this, never sleeping. 12 years passed. The young boy had grown up and the little girl had grown up, but they were still helping him. He did not have a vision of Subramanya. So he felt that he had failed Devayana, and concentrating all the tapas that he did, the penances that he did, onto a gold yantra, Sadakshara yantra, he put that in a box and went to sleep. The boy and the girl, not realizing that he had stopped doing the tapas, they woke him up, thinking that he had fallen asleep. And he got up with anger that after 12 years I have gone to sleep and these children, they have woken me up. So he took a stick and he chased them. And they ran away from him and they crossed the river. And he was about to cross the river when he saw the girl and the boy had disappeared. Valli and Subramanya appeared to him. And he then realized for 12 years they were right next to him, but he didn't realize it. And Subramanya is supposed to have asked him, what boon do you want? He said, come with me back to Kashmir. where Devana is waiting. Subramania said, you stay here with me. She will come. And it is said that Kalyanagiri stayed in Kadirkamam and took Mahasamadhi in Kadirkamam. Now his body was placed in a samadhi, in a pit. And you know how they do that. Very interesting things. There are various things that they do, but here, one layer of salt, one layer of vibhuti, one layer of karpuram, pacha karpuram. Like that, for the mantras, it will keep going, adding. In the pit, the person is seated in the lotus posture and it will cover the person. And at the Brahmarandram, remember the 3 plates where they come and meet? A shankam will be brought and this thing. And then he'll be covered. Now, in the body outside, for the Pancha Indriyas, the 5 sense organs, Sapta, Sparsha, Rasa, Rupa, Gandha. Saptam sound, Sparsham touch, Rasam taste, Rupam vision, Gandham smell. You notice 60% of the information comes from the eyes. But Rupam is Sapta, Sparsha, Rasa, Rupam, 4th in order. They have placed it in order of difficulty to control. Saptam is the first. You're seated, you're gotten ready and you're bathed, you have worn 2 clothes, 2 pieces of clothing, you come and sit down. As you sit, your wife is saying, can you pick up a gallon of milk on the way back from office? That you can't cut. Or the children are playing around in the house and saying, Mommy, Daddy is hitting me. You can't cut that sound. So it's the most difficult. Sapta, Sparsha, Rasa, Rupa, Gandha. 35% of the information comes from this. 60%, so 35 and 60 is 95. The balance, the other things take care of. Now, outside, there is Prana, Apana, Vyana, Udana, Samana. 5 of them. These are called Panchavayu. When you do Naivedyam, that is what you are doing. Inside the body, there are 5 more Vayus. According to Bhavana Upanishad, Naga, Kurma, Grikara, Devadatta, Dhananjaya. 5. Naga, Kurma, Devadatta, no. Naga, Kurma, Grikara, Devadatta, Dhananjaya. 5. Now, the person who is controlling the slides, if you can please pull up the old, where the chakras are mentioned, even the body parts are there, the chakras are there. If you can find it, it will be very, very nice. So anyway, when a person breathes his last or her last, if that person, let us say the person is a realized soul, like Kalyanagiri. Normal people, the prana, the life force consciousness will leave the body either through the eyes or ears, through one of the 9 openings it will go. But if it goes from the center of the eyebrows, thank you, this is the one, or from the top of the head. Now you see on the left hand side, it says Naga, Kurma, Grikara, Devadatta, Dhananjaya. Now there, see, Prana, Apana, right? that one, those 5 are on the other side. Those are for the sense organs. These are inside. When a realized being that has left the body either through the center in the eyebrows or from the top of the head, all of them will leave. Naga, Kurma, Grikara, Devadatta will leave. Dhananjaya will stay in the coelomic cavity. See where they say parathyroid thymus? They are in that area. The air, the gas will collect and stay. When the person is placed in a samadhi with the back erect like that and supported, if the person is a realized being, if this Dhananjaya will push through and come up as a Sivalingam. That is a Swayambhu Lingam. In Sri Lanka, there's a Tandondri Ishwarar. That's one of those. So beneath there will be a yogi's body. A fully realized yogi's body will be there. Now, when they place the body also, they take care. Vedas will be chanted, and first a layer of salt, vibhuti, pachakarpuram, that is the tiny powdery camphor is placed like that, layer after layer, while the chanting is going on, and somebody will be doing abhishekam, and this thing will be completely until the head is completely covered. And they'll open the place where the 3 plates are merging, and the shank, the conch is brought, reversed, so that the tail of the shank lies there, and they'll do that. See, the coronal suture and all that, these are somebody is looking at this from the top of the hair, from the top, so it will be broken. Brahmarandram. Okay, so, oh, it's 9 o'clock. Let me stop here for this time. There are number of other things that we need to study about the Sivalingam. We will take care of them next time. We will have sketches next time. Now, if you have questions, let us see if they have questions.
So some questions from last
This
time.
is the Sivalingam. There you go. But the Sahasralingam that is in Kalyanananda Tirtha's, Kalyanananda Tirtha's ashramam. Please go back to the blue lingam. Next slide. There. That's on the left side is NASA's, the composite of the universe. On the right side is our lingam. And the orange that you see below, that is Ashtabandhanam. Okay. Any questions?
Yes, yeah. This is about last time's class. Can anyone watch the video to learn the puja and start doing it? Are there any restrictions? And how do we know the meaning of the different parts of the puja for each mantra and action? Or is that knowledge not important when performing the puja?
Let me tell you the way I learned it. I don't know how other people, because all my education was in Christian and Catholic schools. Nobody taught me how to do puja. My mother lost her mother when she was 3 years old. And from that day until she got married to my father, her life was in a convent. She did not convert. My grandfather took her out, and at the weekend he took her out. On Sunday evening he will bring her back to the thing. So she didn't know how to do formal puja. She didn't teach me. Only after I met Mataji, I met Selvanahi Akka, Selvanahi Kalyana Sundaram, who is our Vyasa's mother. She is the one who said, Tambi Ingava, come here, sit down here, I'll teach you how to do puja. And she taught me Pancha Upachara Puja first. She didn't tell me what the meanings and all that were. Just Dupam Agravayami, Deepam Darishayami. It's only later, when I knew a little bit more, I incorporated passages from the Vedas. So Satyojadam Pravatyami Satyojataya Vai Namo Namaha Bhave Bhave Nati Bhave Bhavaswamam Bhavotbhavaya Namaha. Did that. At first, I didn't study Sanskrit, so I have no idea what the meanings were. But as you kept doing it, and it started taking root in you, in your consciousness, in your subconscious, and you started getting real interest into the thing, the meanings automatically came to my mind. Like bubbles coming from the bottom of a pond, and you see the bubble coming up and bursting. Like that, the information started coming. I think aided and abetted by the Sadakshara mantra that Mataji gave me. So, yes, even the Satyojada mantras that Aditi chanted and did the puja, if you want, you can learn it. You can learn it from the videos. And the Shodasavachara puja that Adish did last week, that also you can learn. Of course, if you want to go further, then you will have to approach somebody and ask for mantras. People in Sri Lanka, you are very lucky because Dr. Sumanan is right there. Call him. He and I are students of the same Guru. He will teach you because Guruji's wish was that this Vidya should be spread. And he will teach you the Japa Kramam, that means how to do Japam, how to do puja. Learn.
Yeah, while on the topic of Satyojata mantras, is there any truth that there is a sixth face of Shiva, the Adhomukam, that faces down? And if so, when and how do we invoke this face? Because Satyojata mantras only has 5 verses.
To the best of my knowledge, there is no Sivalingam with 6 faces. But in our temple, in my youth, I had occasion to meet with a very senior Shivacharya from Jambukeshwaram, Tiruvanekavar. Little did I know that there was some connection that is going to be made later on too with the deity itself. That's another story. He had come for Tirukediswaram temple Kumbhabhishekam. And you know me, I was always curious about these things, so I went and asked him, Swami, I like to worship a Sivalingam. Can you tell me which? He questioned me. Asked me, have you been initiated? Do you have Guru Paduka? Do you have Guru Ganapati Mantra? And then he asked me, what is your Pradhana Ishta Devata and Pradhana Devata? He asked me, what is your Ishta Devata? I said, Subramanya. At that time, I was a Murugan fan. Then he asked me, what mantra have you been given? So I said, I pronounced the thing. And he said, you have the Bijaksharas? I said, yes. Then he said, there is a Sivalingam that is meant for devotees of Murugan to do Shiva Puja. But it is a Kriya Lingam. It's got to be made by somebody. I said, please, can you let me know where I can buy it? He said, you can't buy the thing. It has to be made. And he said, bring a piece of paper. I brought a piece of paper. He wrote some things in Grantham. So I could read it. And he said, you take it to any jeweler and give it. I took it to a jeweler and gave the fellow. He looked at it and some fantastic sum, he said, to make it. Because he needs a pigeon blood ruby to be in the center. Pigeon blood means if you prick a pigeon's skin and the first drop of blood that comes out is particularly bright red, that is ruby. That color ruby is the purest. So he said it will come to some, I was just about 17 or 18 or 19 years old. He said it will come to about 4,500 or 500 rupees. Where do you go for that kind of money? So I said, okay, Tango, give it back to me. I took the piece of paper, I kept it with me, and thought one day, maybe 50 years from now, after all these things have happened, maybe if I have the praratvam, I will make a lingam and worship it. And at this time, I had finished high school, waiting for entry into the university. I was not idle. I taught little children, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, grade 5, grade 6, grade 7, grade 8, tuition. So I had a fair amount of money with me. Whatever I earned, half of it was given to my mother. I said, here. And the other half, I used to do pilgrimages with that. Go to Trinkavali, Kadirkamam, right? Muniswaram, places like that. Very interesting time. One day, a gentleman came to me and said, Master, I want to talk to you. I said, okay. Gave some work to these guys. He took me. He said, I have brought my son. Fellow is sitting in the car. He is not studying. I don't want him to become a doctor or an engineer or anything like that. After I die, he is the only son. He is going to take over my business. But he must be able to speak good English. If you teach him to speak English, I will be the most grateful person. So, separate grilling for this fellow. I started with Grimm's fairy tales and told him, read this and tell me the story. Like that, it started. And within 1 year, he was quite good in speaking. So much so that he started bossing his fellow students with English, whatever knowledge he had. When the examination came, the fellow passed. The father was the happiest person. And he said, Master, I have to give you something. You have made me very happy. I said, he gave me some money. I said, no, I don't want the money. And he said, you have to do something. Suddenly, I remembered this piece of paper. Went and brought it and gave it to him. And asked him, will you make this lingam for me? He looked at it. He said, aha. Don't worry, I will. And that Sivalingam was made. And I didn't have enough money at that time to get it made out of this or that. Whatever the material that he used, in the center of the lingam is the ruby. And when he gave it to me, on a particular day, they look at the Panchangam for good days and all that. He asked me to come, I went. When he gave it to me, he weighed it. He said, Master, this is the weight. Because the Brahmin from Jambukeswaram had also told me the same thing. Before you take it, you weigh it. Do puja for about 5, 6, maybe 5 years. After that, weigh it again. If the weight has not increased, take it and put it in the ocean. It's not for you. So we put it, it had some weight, we made a note of it. And he also told me the same thing. If it doesn't increase, there's something. That Sivalingam is a regular Sivalingam. The Gomukam is a little longer in proportion. If you look, it is as long as the diameter of the Gomukam is. And that Gomukam and that Yonipitam has 6 folds to represent the 6 faces of Subramanya. So needless to say, after about 2 or 3 years, we weighed the thing, it had increased. So it is still there. It is in my shrine room now. Because I was afraid somebody was going to Not this thing, drop it and break it. Yes, Ayya.
Maybe I have one more question on Sivalingam and then we can stop today. If we have a Sivalingam at home, can anyone do puja to it or only the, say, the owner of the lingam? And is there any time when we should not do puja to the Sivalingam?
You can do puja to Sivalingam, provided if the Sivalingam is at home, I hope and pray that the people who have the Sivalingam at home are vegetarians. And I hope the people who are doing the puja to the Sivalingam at least have Shiva Panchaksharam from some source. Somebody should have given Upadesham to them. They should worship it. If the lady in the house is of childbearing age, on those special days, she should not do puja. Mentally, she can offer the puja, but she should not physically do the puja or externally chant. Internally, you can chant whatever you want. Okay.
Okay, yeah, there are more questions, but maybe we can stop.
Yeah,
Right,
it's 9:15.
okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ayya, for sharing and teaching us about Sivalingams today. We're looking forward to learning more about Sivalingams in the upcoming sessions and more about other sacred rituals within Sanātana Dharma. Just a note to all, we will not be having our yoga session for today. For those who are viewing these learning sessions, we have sent out a feedback form to everyone via email. We kindly ask everyone to take a few minutes to complete this form to help us with the growth of future learning sessions. As a reminder, to access all demonstration videos and content from prior sessions, please visit srividya.org/aym-lectures. All content will be available on our website for everyone to access and practice. We will end today's session here. Thank you everyone for joining us for today's session.